So the first time you open up Rhino, uh, you'll get this sort of splash screen here. And on the right, there is news, which I do look at actually sometimes, and also some tips and tricks here. But we have new, your recent files you can open up. But you'll notice that by default, you have maybe opened something up and it's already in units. So this is already in centimeters. So if I go new, file new, this will come up and it will look different on the Mac, but it's basically, these are pre-made templates for the grid that you're working on. So I prefer to make my own because I don't like the spacing on these. So what you can start off like by choosing inches, just like choose large object or small object inches. That will open up. And each of these between the major grid lines is 1 inch, but you'll notice that the grid is fairly large. And so I like to make it like a ruler. So it has 1/16 of an inch as the grid, because then when I'm snapping to that grid, I just have like a lot more like finer detail. So on the Mac, on the PC, if you have to go to Properties, and if you have the Standard tab on, you can also go to this gear icon, which is Options. And on the Mac, who's using Mac? Did you find it? You don't need this, just the program. Did you install the program? So then go to Rhino. You'll be able to, yeah, you're going to need to go to rhino3d.com and go to download Rhino 8, and then go through that. Is anyone, who else is using a Mac? No one else? Okay. Oh, Bella is. Bella, do you have Rhino installed? Okay. So if I go here to grid, this grid line count is how big the grid is, like the extent of the grid. So you can put this however large you want your grid to be. I like to put the minor grid line spacing at 1/16 of an inch. So that's 0.0625. And then I'll put the major grid lines every 16. And then the snap spacing is the actual where it snaps to. So if I don't reduce this to 0.0625, I'll still be snapping at 1/4 inch. So you have to put that at 0.0625. And just while I'm on this, these are all the preferences that you can change. You don't, I'd suggest not really changing much, but if you can change like colors and things like that. Like if you don't want gray, some people make that white. But I'm just going to click OK now. So you see my grid now is updated. So I have little tiny squares, but I know each of those big squares is an inch. And then I'm going to go File, Save as Template. Yep. Too big? No, it should just size. So now you want to name that. So you can name it whatever you want. And somewhere, sometimes it will prompt you if you want to use that as the default for opening up, like every time you open up Rhino. So I'm going to go File, New again. And I'm going to start, if you're going to make an inch template, start with inches. If you're going to make a metric, start in metric. Because all the dimensioning is like set to either it's either set to metric or imperial. No. So this is set actually the way I would use it if I was using metric. So that's 10 millimeters. And then, or is this, no, this is centimeters. So I want to change this and go File, Properties again. So minor grid line spacing, I want at 0.1 centimeter. Major every 10. Snap spacing every 0.1. So I'll click OK, and then again go Save as Template. And I'll just call this so now when I open up a new file, I have my templates here that I can use so I know what I'm working with. Because sometimes it is like a lot of things you can scale like uniformly, but sometimes if you're using like offset lines and things, it just, and you're in a completely wrong kind of measurement, then it can be a little bit problematic. Uh, so I'll just open it up again. Oops, I'll need new. There. So I would put this on, if this yours isn't on standard tab right here, all the way to the left, have that standard on. You start off generally with the 4 views like this. And if you double click on the words themselves, then you can maximize that view. And if you click the little arrow, this changes how you're viewing your model, like either rendered or just wireframe or shaded or ghosted. So this by default is in shaded mode when it starts. Right, now we're just going to be working with some 2D stuff, so it doesn't matter because we're just going to be using some lines. But just so you know, if you right click that, there's also all these other information in here that you can change in different options as well. So each of these tabs has a whole set of tools. So like these are all just selection tools, like ways of selecting. Viewport, layout, visibility of things, curve tools, surfacing tools, solid tools, sub D we have in here, and mesh. Rendering, I don't use rendering in that much. And now they have added this drafting. So if you were going to make like plans for something, for like an to send to a shop or something like that, they have that. And these are all the new tools in version 8. There's quite a few. But we'll just be in this standard view. So this is just your regular file things, print, cut and paste, different zooming. No, that's why I made the template. So you go file save as template. But if there's anything on your screen, it will save that also. So here, these are also those different display modes like wireframe. So all these little triangles you can click on and you'll get additional tools. So this one I use sometimes to change, or sorry, this one with the grid, just to change views. But a lot of the times I'm just going to be typing. So, but this is dimension, this is grasshopper, and there's also help. By default, it usually comes up like this, where you have already have a bunch of layers, and we're on our default layer. So there's layers, properties. This is like you can turn on and off certain things if you don't want to see them, and you can turn them back on. There is a nice help thing, so if you click on any tool and you have that help on, it will give you the instructions on how to use that tool, which is nice. Do you see this little question here? And over here, there's also this question, so you can do it here. And you'll notice a little gear icon here. So there's also some options of showing toolbars there. But I'm just going to keep this on the layers for now. These are basic 2D drawing tools right here, and like just a selection tool, filleting, making surfaces, making solids, primitives, the Boolean, like combine, projecting, meshing, join, explode, trim, grouping, turning control points on and off if you're like doing splines. You can do text, move, copy, rotate, scaling, and also different types of pattern, aligning objects, flow. Oh, push, pull. That's new for this. So that's similar to Fusion 360, where you can just pull a face on a solid out. You don't have to worry about blocks right now. So this was our selection filter here. So right now it's set to select everything, which is fine for what we have. But just know that if you can't select something, sometimes maybe if you disabled everything, it might not select everything. This also can have your O snap. And on the Rhino version, there's an O snap little circle like this up here that you can click and you'll see it. So O snap, if I draw something, I turn these on. I usually leave project off. But if I go to draw a line now, see how when I go to this edge, it goes to the center automatically? You see that? If you don't see that, make sure this button Smart Track is on. So this is a real helpful drawing aid because it will find the center, or like the quadrant if you want to move across something. If you have another shape and then I want to draw a line, see, it will snap to the end. It'll snap to the midpoint of the line, the center, or if you have two lines that are intersecting, it'll say that's the intersection. And this is real important because in Rhino, you have to have enclosed shapes if you want to extrude them. Well, you can extrude just surfaces, but it's not going to. Well, it's only for like circles and enclosed shapes. The center command. You have this all on, and down here you have to have the O snap on.
This got disconnected and I don't know how to get back.
Just pull it over there. So if this happens, you have to just go to your preferences of where we go to properties, and then I think we go to view and restore defaults,
Oh,
and then just reopen.
oh, okay, that's closer.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just drag it, see, like this. See, you should be able to.
Why is it doing that, but not going back?
Yeah, mine's not either.
Oh, no, it's gone back to how it was.
The way you had it.
No, it's gone back to the way it was before, but
There we go.
how'd you do it?
Right, you have to do it on those little buttons. Those little,
Really?
see those little those dots? So on these little dots here.
Yeah. Oh, I have to drag it without, clicking on those.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
it should go blue and then go back in.
okay. Okay.
So this is very important. Look up here. If you have your O snap off and your grid snap off, and you're like, oh, I want to draw something and I want that to connect there. You know, I can get it really close like that, and then that's done. That is never going to be connected. No matter how close you think you've drawn it, it's never going to be connected. So you're going to get errors and errors down the road. So you either need to use the grid snap or the O snap when you are drawing and making sure that those things are connected. And one way to check if it's connected, if I try to join this. Oh, it did it. So now it's, some of these things are new, and it actually, no, it didn't join it. So you can see that. So you'll think it's joined maybe, but it will never be. So if you're using the grid snap, then you can, as you can see, it'll snap to the grid. So if you draw a line on the grid, you're okay. It's on the grid, but if you have this off, then you want things to be connected, make sure that you're using that O snap. And you'll notice with this smart track, like if you want to draw like something parallel, it will kind of make that white line come up. So grid snap and O snap are important. Ortho just is a like orthogonal. So right now it's set at 90. So see how I can only draw at 90 degrees? It won't let me draw at any other angle. So I can set the ortho angle here and turn it on and off. And then we also have a gumball just like in Fusion. So the gumball, you can turn on and off. I sometimes don't like the gumball because it's easy to move things without realizing it sometimes. So depending on what you're working on, sometimes it's very great to use. Sometimes you can turn it off. But you can see that there's move, you can extrude, you can also change where the gumball is located by clicking on that white circle. These will extrude. So see how that extrudes it out, where the arrows are just gonna move it. Right down here, as soon as you select something, it will appear. So speaking of selection, there's a few different ways of selecting. You can just click on something and select it. If you draw a box from the top left to the bottom right, you have to completely surround the object for it to select it. So see how it's not selecting anything? But if you go from the bottom right to the top left, you just have to be touching the object. So that will select those. Then we have the grouping commands. So you can group things together. And then when you go to move them, they'll move and be selected together. And there's multiple layers of grouping. So if I like group these three, it's still going to remember that other group. So if I ungroup that one, it still remembers this group. And you'll notice that I am going to be typing my commands a lot because it's just faster than trying to find the icon, but you don't have to click in this box to type in this. This is called your command line. So I can have my cursor anywhere, and I can just like type line, and that will start your command. So just get used to just typing in commands, and you can type in anything that you think might be a command. But if you're not sure, the other place you can find all the tools is up here, all along this menu. Right now, I just have this regular selection tool. So I'm not using a specific one. This thing? That's just so you can see where my cursor is more easily. Well, if you just click on them, and if the gumball's off, you can just drag things around. It's not like Fusion. But see how I can only drag this at 90 degrees? That's because my ortho was on. So you have free movement. And right now, we're just working on this flat plane, which is called the construction plane. But you can make other construction planes kind of like in Fusion if you need to. Or sometimes people will just use the front or the right to draw on those. Because in the perspective mode, sometimes if you're drawing a line and want it to go vertically, it's just always going to snap to that plane. So back to up here, we have all in text, every single command. So these in view, you can also change the views. Um, and you can set right now. Usually you don't use that many of these tools, but sometimes if you want it to rotate around a certain object, like I could go to view, set camera, and place target. And I don't know if you'll notice it, but well, if I put the target over here, see, that's where the plane's going to rotate around. So by default, it's set at your origin. So here we have all our curve tools. So even any line, basically what you think of as a line is called a curve. So you're just one line, polyline, just all different rectangles, all these different curve tools. You can also do helix and spiral. Extend curve. So if you don't have a something quite connecting, I can type in extend. So it asks for my boundary object. So up here, when you set your command, you always want to look up here because it's basically prompts you for what's needed next. So if I can click on this boundary object and hit enter, and I want to extend this curve, and that extends it there. And you'll notice in here, you're gonna, on a lot of commands, you'll have lots of options up there as well. So another really handy thing, well, there's offsetting. You can blend curves. If you have two curves and you want them to flow better, you can like blend them together. You can get profiles, cross-section profiles. Tweening curves is always fun. So ask me how many I want. So if I want 10 between those, then it will give me 10 between those. There's also this curve from objects, which gets used a lot. So let's say I have a three-dimensional shape and I want to like extract the curve of a face to use. I can go curve from objects. I can like duplicate edge or duplicate border, duplicate face border. So if I do that and then hit enter, then I have a curve there. And you'll notice it kind of disappears in this view. But if I go to select in the middle, I can select that. But if I'm trying to select something and I'm too close to the two things, it again will bring up this list so you can choose what you want to select. So if I want to select the curve, I can select that. Oh, for that, I just actually use this solid tool over here, this box. So these are just circles or spheres. I mean, any solids. So these are like pipe. The other way to make a solid is to extrude the curve. So extrude curve, and you can select the curve and then just drag it and it will make it. So you'll notice that it did not make it solid, like it doesn't have a top and a bottom. And this is really handy. If you want to repeat your last command, if you just right click, it will repeat your last command, or you can hit enter and it automatically does my next one. So see out here, it says output surface, direction. I could have it both sides. Solid, yes, I want it solid. And there we have a solid. So these are those are handy. These are just the surface. So just like we have the sweeping and the lofting, but all those are also over here in the surface tools. So there's like lofts and sweeps, revolve, draping. So just know that you can pretty much manipulate everything in a lot of different ways. And sometimes helping, just going through these lists can be helpful, just to see what's available. So the transform is like moving, copying, rotating, mirroring, align, making arrays, twist, bend, taper, flow, smoothing, different types of manipulation. You can do like length and distance here in Analyze. Analyze is different than getting the actual dimensions. I don't use rendering. I don't really use paneling tools that much. I use it in Grasshopper. And then you can also change your windows. So we'll start, we're going to make an array. So I'm going to choose just my cell spacing. So I'm going to use a rectangle and just start at 0. So I'm going to have my grid snap on. If I know something's going to exist in a grid, then I usually use the grid snap. And you might just want to go to the top view for this. So if I'll do a circle. And I'm going to put my O snap back on. So if I want it from the center, I can. Sometimes the center is kind of weird to work with, but then it will snap right to here. And this is my cell spacing. So I'm going to put that on a different layer. So over here are our layers. We're on our default layer. So I'm going to say change layer. And I'm going to put it on the red layer. Click OK. And now it's red. And now I can turn that on and off. So just like Photoshop, kind of, you have layers that you can use. You can make new layers, turn them on and off. So let's say I want to make an array of these circles. I can type array, And you'll see there's all these different types of arrays come up. So array along a curve on a surface, array, a whole, polar array, linear, arraying surface. I'm just going to use the regular array. So this asks for my number in the x direction. So I'll just say like 12. Number in y, I want 12. Number in z, I just want 1 because I just want it to stay on that plane. And then I hit enter. Then it asks for my cell spacing. So if I snap to this lower level or lower corner here, then I can get my circles like that. And you can hit enter to accept it. So this is where grouping comes in, because if you want to group, you can group this whole thing. So that, whoops, I didn't group. There we go. You can group the whole thing to move it around. So I can array both of these like with the red line. And it'll always remember your values from the previous command. So I can just hit enter, enter, enter. So this will do the red. And click enter. So now, I can turn that on and off. So that can be just handy kind of drafting skills. I'm just going to undo this for a minute. So if we brought this to the laser cutter, this is just going to fall apart. You know what I mean? Because these are all be individual pieces. No. But we bought a new one. There's supposed to be a new one coming. Hopefully. The array? Yep. There we go. So I'm going to select, and remember, you can select like this, but it has to surround it, or you can go up from the bottom and just be touching it. Oh, are you asking about the layers?
No, I was asking about the array, but I lost my array with the layers.
Okay. This whole window you lost?
Yeah, I don't have
If that happens, you can just save your file, and actually no, it will remember.
Can you turn off the default? Where?
So right, you have two layers here, and if you press this, you double click on the layer. So that you can't turn the default layer off unless you select another active layer.
Oh, I see.
So then I can just turn off and on like that. And you can also obviously lock the layers here. This also, just so you know, you can have it like dotted lines if you want, by changing this line type. And then this is also like some printing things, so you don't really need it, but just so you know, it's there. And you can rename these layers and also like make groups. So the array, you can also just cut and paste. So you can do, select all by Control A, copy, paste it, but you won't notice until you drag it away. So if I select this, go array, if I can just put in a new number if I want more or less. And I'm 12, 1. There we go. And then enter to accept that. So as I was saying, this will kind of just fall apart. So we're going to use a couple other tools in the drafting. So I'm just going to undo this and go back to my original one. So if I choose, so even if you're not up to the array part, if you just like draw a square with a circle in it, you can use this, what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to use the offset tool. So if I go offset, I can select the curve, and then I have to tell it how far I want it to offset. So this is set at 1 inch offset. So I can put 0.125. See what that looks like. And then I want to do that on both sides, like that. And if you're doing and then just hit enter. If you're offsetting a square, you can change the corners. So if you want like round or smooth, see that? Will add a corner radius. And you can also, again, do both sides. I guess it's not allowing both the inner and outer to have the curve, but just
Offset? Is it just offset?
just offset, yep.
Where's offset?
Just type it in, offset. But if you wanted to find it, all the curve tools are up here. So there's offset down here, offset curve. This ribbon offset is used for mold making, so you can like have it make a surface like around a 3-dimensional object. So does everyone have something like this where they have a few different?
Like original command language. So we take an object and then
So just have have a square and make a circle.
yeah, I have that.
And if you ever are stuck, like sometimes if you might forget you're in the middle of a command because like nothing will happen, you can just hit escape and it will kind of end that previous command. So then I changed that layer. And then you can pre-select or you can type the command and then select. So I'm going to offset this curve, but I'm going to use both sides. And if anything that has the underline, you just can use that as a keyboard command. So if I just hit B, it'll go to both sides. B, enter.
Mine isn't offsetting very far. Is there a reason? Did you use offset?
So your distance right here, you can click that distance, and then you can put in whatever value you want. What's your value?
It's like a quarter of a millimeter.
Oh, you're in millimeters?
Well, no, I'm in centimeters, but I have like the spacing in the squares. Offset distance.
So you want it to be,
I've messed up mine.
you want it just to be within all these lines within the square for this exercise.
Inside. I must have messed up mine.
But you could also just
I need to put that.
and then
Okay.
just enter. There you go.
I must have done something weird to my wig.
So I'm going to put this center circle on another layer. So change layer. So that's now purple. Good. And now I'm going to show a couple commands. One is the explode command. So if I have a square and I click explode or type explode, it's going to make that all into individual segments again. And then I can also use this puzzle piece to join, or just type join. And then that will be joined as a square. And I want to trim, I need to trim around the outside of this. So I'm going to type trim. And you also have split, which will split the line, but not take it away. So when you're trimming, it asks you to select your cutting object. So I'm going to select this square and hit enter. Select object to trim. So you can just either click on it, or you can also go up and like select like this. So you can trim like multiple lines off the outside of something if you need to. and I'll just hit enter when I'm done. Yep. So trim. So I'm going to select my cutting object and hit enter. And then I want to trim away these outside lines. And I'll hit enter. Then I'm going to select these all the black lines and group those. So I'll say group. So now those are grouped. And then I'm going to select all of this now and do the array command again. And go like that and hit enter. And there's my array. Yours, do you have something like this? If it's all yellow, that's like if you grouped everything together. So if you select it all and type ungroup, then you should be able to select things individually. And to select multiple items, you have to hold down Shift while you're selecting. And you can also use Control to deselect like one item at a time. But once those are selected, I'm going to group those together. And I'll select everything and type array. Enter, enter, enter. And then enter to accept it. So now you can see if I turn these layers off, then I have basically a confessional screen or something. um, but I have something that I can cut out in the laser cutter as like a pattern, and it's not all going to fall apart. Obviously, all these circles and little pieces are gonna fall out, but this will stay together. Yes. There's a way to use Illustrator where you can use, it's called image trace, and like it'll take like the outline of things in an image. Or sometimes you can go online and it's called vectorizer, and you put in an image and it makes it like black and white and then makes those shapes. And if you have those shapes, you can get the outlines and put them in. So if you wanted to like make wallpaper or something, like you could do that. You can also put an image in the canvas and like trace, but it's inactive. Like you can't use the image itself for much. But is that what you meant? Like if you wanted to?
Kind of like more of a, like, what if I want to use, like, at some point, like, natural or whatever, or like, putting blame on it, you know what I mean? That's what I mean.
Yeah. If you can't draw it because it's like super intricate, then yeah, we would go through one of those vectorizer things. Yeah. Like if you wanted like a graph, something that was already a graphic. Yeah, that's what we could do. But yeah, we can do it. Yeah. So just a few more, and then I'll let you just try some things for a bit. I just want to go over the moving, kind of the moving tools. So as I talked about, you can turn the gumball on to move things around. But if you want to move something very accurately, just going to group that. There's this move tool, or you can type in move, and you select what you want to move, enter, and it asks you to point to move from. So again, I have my O snap on, so I can select a certain point on here, and then I could move that wherever I need it with that O snap. So that's my move tool. Wherever wherever you see a little triangle on these commands, it will give you all those little icons. You can grab that if you want and bring it out, and it'll stay here as its own separate toolbar. So this is my copy. So the copy tool asks you to select what to copy, enter. Again, it asks for a point that you want to copy from. So you want to be copying from a point. Oops, I had those grouped together if I forgot. So copy this circle. So it'll let me just keep copying over and over again. But it'll only snap to like the points that you used. Copy. So I will group these together. So you saw, it doesn't matter. You can go like as infinitely out into space as you want on this, but I usually stay near the grid so I don't lose stuff. But you can have like multiple things going on. And a lot of times, like if I was going to keep working on this, but I want to save that, I would copy it. Just Control C, Control V, and I would just maybe move it out somewhere where I'm not going to need it, and either leave it like that, or you can also hide things just by typing hide and show. We'll bring it back up. Or you could put it on another layer and have all that stuff on another layer that you that you turn off. So I group these. So my rotate command, actually first we could extrude those. So if I select these and go extrude curve, I could extrude these up in the air. I want them to be solid, which they are. And again, to end the command, you can right click, and right click will also repeat your last command. So I could do an array polar, or actually first I'm going to do just a rotate. So this is the rotate. So I'm going to do a rotate 2D. So I want to rotate this, all of these objects. So the group, but the group actually I forgot is the just these circles. So I'm going to group these together too. So if I use rotate, I have those cylinders selected. It asks me for my center of rotation. So wherever you want your center to be, could be anywhere, but I'm going to use that point. So angle or first reference point, I'm going to use the other end of this. So you can see that that's like a circle now. So I can now rotate that. And I could put in an angle if I wanted to. And you see here, it says copy no. I could put copy if I wanted to and keep copying around like that. And these are overlapping now. So I could try this Boolean if I wanted those to be like one, but I'm not sure. It might not function because since they're circles, they're actually, or cylinders are not overlapping. Yeah. Oh yeah, that did actually put those together, but not all of them. But if you have overlapping solids, you can connect them together or use the cut tool like we did in Fusion. There's also like array polar. So you can select your objects. You can use any point as the center. And you can tell it how many you want. And then you have a reference point. And you can do it completely 360 and just hit enter, enter. And then you get your array polar. The align tool I don't use that much, but it will align objects in a row. We'll see what happens when if we say align type. See that it just kind of organizes things, but not always in the way you want. But you can play with it, and it can be helpful. If you lose stuff way out in the middle of nowhere, you can use this fit tool, zoom extents, and it will bring everything back in. To zoom in, you can zoom right in using the windows. I think that's probably enough for you for the moment. Huh?